Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be going over the top 10 first basemen in Diamond Dynasty. And yeah, the other day I did the top 10 catchers. We're going to continue going on through all of the positions until we finish it up, and then later in the year we'll come back and do this again. But just keep this in mind that I am only going to be doing guys that have a primary position, and for all the stipulations and everything for the top 10s, go back and watch my catcher video and I'll lay out all the rules there. And also, there were a lot of guys that I couldn't fit on this list. I'll try to mention them as well. Okay, so there were actually several guys that ended up not making the top 10 that I think at least deserve a mention. There was the 86 overall Alex Gonzalez, there was the 85 overall Jason Giambi, the 91 overall Paul Molitor, the 82 overall Kendrys Morales, the 86 overall Orlando Cepeda, the 81 overall Justin Bour, 85 overall Eric Karros, and the 88 overall Will Clark. Those are all the guys that I considered that just didn't quite make the cut, but they were really close. First base is a very, very deep position right now with a lot of really good players. So yeah, lots of really good players to pick from. But I think I got down to about who I think approximately are the top 10 best first basemen in MLB The Show. So let's go ahead and get into the list. At number 10, we have the 87 overall Chris Davis. Now, this was very close between him and a couple of other guys, but I just could not ignore the power versus right-handed pitching. You know that I value right-handed or hitters that hit righties better than lefties, and this guy is no slouch versus lefties either. He still has 79 power, but my God, versus righties, this is going to be probably the best hitter in your lineup. 92, 122, he's going to be hitting the cover off the ball. Defensively, we don't really care about that a ton, but I mean, he's okay. I mean, he's not great or anything. He's not going to be a terrible liability. Most first basemen don't really have great defense or anything, but one thing to keep note of is that he can play third base, left field, or right field as well, so that kind of gives him a little bit more value than it otherwise would have. Okay, next up is the 85 overall Anthony Rizzo, and this was a guy that I debated a lot because he doesn't have, as a first baseman, you want to have guys that are just amazing hitters, all-around hitters that do everything, excellently. And this guy just does everything really well. He doesn't excel at any one thing hitting. He doesn't have a ton of power. He doesn't have a ton of contact, but he's well above average in all of those regards. And because he mixes that with the quirks, with the inside edge, where that can boost up his attributes a good bit and everything, because of that, I felt like I had to give him the nod over some of the other guys that I may have left off the list. And I just love this guy's balance. I love the fact that no matter who you're facing, he's going to be giving you similar production, and I really value that to where you don't even really have to think about platooning or anything like that. He also has good vision for a first baseman. He doesn't strike out a lot, and as a bonus, he's got relatively good defense as well. So all around, just a really solid card and one of the better live series first basemen in the game. Okay, coming in at number 8 is the 87 overall Paul Konerko, and this is a card that kind of snuck up on me. I don't see a lot of people using this card, and I think that they should start doing that because, I mean, look at this guy as a hitter. He's got pop versus both sides and a lot of pop versus lefties, 110. Versus righties, 86 power. He's got 75 vision. His contact versus righties is well above average. It's about maybe a little below for lefties, but he more than makes up for it with that power. This isn't a guy that's going to give you great defense or a lot of speed or anything. He's just going to hit the ball. And that's what you want out of your first baseman, and I think that that's what this guy gives you. He's going to be able to hit a ton of home runs for you, and he's going to not strike out a ton. He's got serviceable contact numbers, just all around a solid card, and that's why he slides in at number 8. I think more people should start trying to acquire this card and using him. Okay, coming in at number 7 is the 85 overall Paul Goldschmidt, and this is another card kind of like that Rizzo that I debated for a while, but in the end I had to give him the nod because he is just such, once again, just a solid hitter across the board, and against lefties, he murders lefties, and you know, against righties, he's about like that Rizzo, except he's right-handed, 75-72, that's enough to be a serviceable hitter. The only thing that Rizzo kind of has the edge on him is his vision. The Rizzo will have a bigger PCI, so if you're someone like me that cares about that, that could be an issue for you. And also, like the Rizzo, this guy is a great defender. And also, unlike almost any other first baseman, he actually has a little bit of speed to speak of. 61 speed is not that bad for a first baseman, so that's really valuable. I mean, he's going to be able to stretch out a double and a triple where a lot of other first basemen might only get a single out of it. And he's also going to hit a lot of home runs for you. Overall, a solid hitter that does a lot of other things really well, too, and that's very rare for a first baseman. So that got him the nod at number 7. Okay, and at number 6, we have the 87 overall Edwin Encarnacion, and this is kind of what I think about whenever I think about a right-handed first baseman. I think about a guy who is just gonna mash. And as a hitter, there's not much more that you could ask for out of a guy like this. 71, 86 versus righties with 75 vision, no PCI problems whatsoever. And then if you're ever lucky enough to get a left-handed pitcher, look out. 84 contact, 113 power. He is a monster versus left-handed pitching, and he is going to be scary for any opponent that you face. He's just a huge threat to put in the middle of your lineup, but you are going to have to sacrifice some defense and some speed to get it. He is atrocious defensively, and even though he has secondaries at third base and left field, I would not recommend putting him there because he is one of the worst defenders in the game at any position that you put him. So I would relegate him to either first base or a pinch hitting role. So that does take away a little bit of his value, but the fact that he is just such a good hitter has to slot him near the top, and that's why I put him at number 6 in my top 10. All right, you knew that this guy had to make the top 5. The 87 overall Joey Votto. Joey Votto has been doing it for what seems like forever. The dude's been killing it. He's been one of the best first basemen in the game for as long as I can remember, and he keeps at it. You know, he's like, this card isn't as good as a lot of the other cards that he's had in the past. It's not quite as balanced, but it's still very good. Versus righties, he's going to be one of, if not the best first live series first baseman in the game. 95-80 versus righties. He's going to be super reliable. He's got excellent vision or discipline, which in my opinion is a little bit more important this year than it has been in years past, because it makes it a lot easier to check swing and to really work counts and stuff like that. The only problem with this card is his power versus lefties. It's not terrible, but 66, you might want a little bit more out of your first baseman. So, you know, you got to kind of work around that, but he's not a guy, it's not bad enough that you're going to platoon this guy or anything. And he has great contact versus lefties and decent vision as well. He's also another one of those guys that is going to be a plus defender for you. So if that's something that you value, I really don't that much, but it's there for you, you know, if you need it. So yeah, that is why Joey Votto slides in at number 5. Okay, at number 4, I have the 89 overall Victor Martinez, and this was probably the toughest card to place anywhere on this list. Because I really don't know what to do with him. He doesn't have good defense. He has horrific speed, and so that kind of makes him difficult to slot. And do I knock him that much for it? Another thing is that he doesn't have elite power versus right-handed pitching. So do I knock him for that? But the thing that I think makes this card overcome those obstacles is the fact that he's a switch hitter that, other than the power versus righties, is an elite hitter across the board. 94 contact versus right, 114 versus lefties, 95 power versus lefties, 103 vision. I mean, your PCI is going to be enormous. And 68 power, if that was like 45 power or something like that, this card probably wouldn't even make the list. But 68 is is enough to get by with, especially post this most recent patch that we got. 68 is plenty of power to get by with, especially with him being a switch hitter. And yeah, just a fantastic hitter across the board. Another thing that kind of gives this card bonus points is the fact that he can also catch. And in my opinion, I think that's probably the best place to play him, because it's very difficult to get offensive production like this at catcher, and it's not that difficult at first base. So I think he might have a little bit more value there, even though with his defense, you might be a little more reluctant to play him there. I would understand that, but I think that it might be worth it. It's something that I would definitely test around with and see if it's something that works for you. Overall, just a fantastic card, and that's why I slotted him in at number 4. Okay, at number 3, we have Freddie Freeman, and throughout the years, I've always tried I've almost had a habit of ranking Freddie Freeman lower than he probably deserved to be, because I didn't want to give off the vibe that I was being biased, because Freddie Freeman is probably my favorite player, and I'm a huge Braves fan, and you know, everybody knows that, so I didn't want to, oh, you just put Freddie Freeman there because he's so high. Go back and watch my other videos. I really didn't. I almost ranked him lower because of that. But this year, I think, is the year that he kind of deserves to be the highest ranked live series first baseman on this list. And the reason is he's kind of like the Rizzo. He's solid across the board. He's very consistent, no matter if it's a lefty or a righty. But the thing is he has not quite elite, but right below elite hitting numbers versus almost everybody. 94, 80 versus righties, 80 versus 76 versus lefties. Very solid across the board. And he's not a terrible defender. He's about a slightly above average defender for a first baseman. He doesn't have terrible speed. It's not great, but for a first baseman, 43 is probably about average. It's just a solid card with elite hitting across the board. Not elite hitting, very, very good hitting across the board. That's remarkably consistent. He also has a couple quirks that you can work with, and he also has third base as a secondary, thanks to a little experiment gone wrong last year. So that's always nice. Overall, just a fantastic card. I had to put him in the top 3. If you guys want to shout bias, you can, but I think I stand by it, man. This guy is a monster. If you ever want a card that will hit mammoth ding-dongs for you just consistently all the time, get the 90 overall Willie Stargell. 91 contact versus righties, 72 versus lefties, with 100 plus contact versus both righties and lefties. That is something that cannot be ignored. Now, he is a little bit on the slower side, and he's not the best fielder in the world. And that might be the only thing that's keeping him from being the number 1 overall guy. Even though I kind of like the other guy, the number 1 guy as a hitter a little bit more too, this guy could certainly make an argument if maybe he had like 55 speed and good fielding. Once you get down to cards that are this good, that's kind of when fielding and speed and stuff for a first baseman start to become those separating factors. But I don't think it made that much of a difference for this card. But overall, just like, as far as cards that can be reasonably acquired, this is the best first baseman in the game. The other card that I'm about to talk about is extremely difficult to acquire, but my God, he is the best. He is the best card in the game that's not an immortal, and I have no doubt about that. So let's move on to number 1 and talk about that card. Holy shit! The 98 overall Jeff Bagwell, the best card in the game that is not an immortal. And honestly, it would only take an attribute point like up here or there to make him an immortal, a 99 overall. He is so close to it. And we kind of have an idea of what it takes to become an immortal because of this card. You know, I mean, like, how many other cards are there going to be with stats that are this good that don't hit immortal territory? I can't imagine that there are going to be all that many more that throughout this year. I mean, just across the board, this card is insane. 97, 87 versus righties, basically elite. versus lefties, 125, 125. Elite of the elite. It's as good as it can get. 80 vision, 98 discipline, 99 clutch, good fielding, very good speed for a first baseman. Across the board, this guy is a monster, and there is no way I could have put anyone else at number 1 other than Jeff Bagwell. He is an absolute insane maniac. Okay, now a lot of you people that didn't go and watch the catcher video might be asking, where are the immortals? Why aren't you talking about the Pujols or something like that? And the answer to that, if you were to watch the other video, is that I'm only talking about cards that are available for play right now. So any cards that are locked behind programs or stuff like that, I'm not talking about until they get released, and that's when we'll redo this list, and that's when Jeff Bagwell will probably be knocked down a little bit. So just keep that in mind. And I forgot to talk about that at the beginning of the video, so I thought I'd bring it up here. But guys, that is going to do it. Your number 1 first baseman is Jeff Bagwell. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. If you new to the channel, please sub. I'd really appreciate it. I'm going to be making a lot more content here in the next month or so. I'm going to be streaming a lot more, so I'd really enjoy it if you guys came by and hung out and stuff. But yeah, I love you guys. I will see y'all later, but until then, peace.